Whether in the time of the Lord Buddha or in our present age, the kilesas must be corrected and got rid of by means of Dhamma. It's comparable to diseases that have been prevalent in all ages. They can all be cured by using the right remedy. I have had faith in this for a long time, and the longer I go on practicing, the deeper it becomes buried in my heart, until nothing can remove it. Ajaan Mun's Ascetic Path. Ajaan Khao always vividly remembered the words that Venerable Ajaan Mun spoke when they stayed together, for they had penetrated deep into his heart. His unshakable faith in Ajaan Mun grew deeper and deeper, until it became one with his heart. Ajaan Mun taught him the true way of practice in this way. When watching the kilesas and searching for Dhamma, no one should overlook the heart, which is the place where the kilesas and Dhamma all dwell. Both the kilesas and Dhamma are to be found only in the heart, and not elsewhere in any time or place whatsoever. They arise in the heart, develop in the heart, and die away in the heart, which is the one who knows them. Trying to cure the kilesas or search for Dhamma in other places is useless. Even if you were to spend the rest of your life doing so, you would never come across them as they truly are. Even after dying and being reborn many times, you would still come across only kilesas that have arisen from the heart, and experience the discontent and suffering that comes from them. By searching for Dhamma in the heart, you will gradually start to find it. It will then increase steadily, depending on the intensity with which you strive for it. Time and place are merely conditions which can promote or suppress the kilesas and Dhamma, causing them to develop or deteriorate accordingly. Thus, for instance, forms and sounds are conditions which promote the kilesas that are already in the heart, causing them to develop and increase. On the other hand, going to practice meditation in the hills and forests is done for the purpose of promoting the Dhamma that dwells in the heart, causing it to greatly increase. The real kilesas and Dhamma are within the heart, whereas the conditions that increase or suppress them are to be found everywhere, both internally and externally. That is why the Ajaans teach their followers to avoid enticing things which are disturbing to the heart, things that tend to make those kilesas within their hearts become more audacious, such as the many things experienced through the senses. In addition, they also teach their followers to wander in mountains and forests, so they can live in peaceful solitude. There they can much more easily practice the way, and so gradually eliminate their kilesas, thus diminishing the round of birth and death, vata, within their hearts by using these methods. For this reason, finding a suitable place for the purpose of striving to practice the way is very important. It is the right method for one who is ordained and hopes to attain freedom from dukkha in his heart. This follows the basic principles of the Dhamma that the Lord Buddha formulated for his followers after he saw clearly for himself what things were dangers to their purpose. By staying at times in ordinary places, and at other times in unusual and lonely places, your attitude towards the place where you are staying is always changing, so you don't become too complacent. But when you stay a long time in one place, the citta becomes overly familiar with that place. Those who are reflective and watchful of themselves will know immediately when this happens, so they will quickly change and move to another place so as to find the right conditions to prevent themselves from relaxing to the point of carelessness. Complacency gives the kilesas an opportunity to muster their strength, and thus bring about your ruin without you being aware of what is happening. But when you correct the situation right away, without being careless or indifferent to it, the kilesas are not likely to have any chance to build up enough strength to ruin the citta and the Dhamma within it. You are then able to move forward without deteriorating. Those who train themselves to recognize what is dangerous must have mindfulness continually present in the heart, reflecting and knowing in the present without slipping away into forgetful indulgence. By not slipping into forgetful indulgence, you create a protective barrier against many kinds of kilesas which have not yet arisen, thus giving them no opportunity to arise. As for the kilesas that are still there, those that have yet to be entirely cured, it prevents them from becoming more troublesome and arrogant. It also encourages you to get rid of them using unrelenting mindfulness, wisdom, faith, and effort. If your mindfulness is strong, then any place which instills fear in the chitta becomes a charnel ground for the cremation of all the kilesas by means of Tapa Dhamma, the ascetic Dhamma, that is, effort that has mindfulness and wisdom as the means of burning the kilesas to destruction. The jhanas, samadhi, banya, wisdom, and vimutti, liberation, will all be absolutely clear to the heart in that place where you practice in the right way. Whether it's the kilesas losing their power, or the kilesas dying away steadily, or the kilesas being entirely eliminated, it will happen in the heart, aided by a place which is well suited to someone who strives with zeal in everything in all ways. Other than the heart, there is no other place where all the kilesas arise and cease. This one must keep in mind and take to heart. The place where Dhamma thrives is where the kilesas will decline and die away entirely. What we call the place, those who practice the way should always know is in the heart alone and nowhere else. Therefore you should struggle to cut the kilesas to pieces and destroy them without fear or favor on the battlefield, which is the heart, while depending on a suitable environment as a supporting condition to enable you to be victorious, to gain salvation, and to reach the highest point of human attainment by the persistence of your own striving. You must not go astray and be uncertain of the way, thinking that the kilesas and the great mass of your own dukkha are to be found anywhere else but within the sphere of the heart. From the first beginnings, my own practice, which was rather haphazard because I had no teacher who could teach and train me properly, until I became a teacher myself with my own followers, I have never seen this mass of dukkha anywhere but in the heart, nor have I seen any unimaginably strange or truly wonderful things in any other place except the heart, which is the abode of Dhamma, and all the kilesas as well. It is dukkha and samudaya, which also exist in the heart of each one of us, that exercise such great power over everything in the three worlds, for they are able to completely block the way which leads to the path, fruition, and nibbana. Considering the means, or tools, for digging out and clearing away dukkha and its cause, so that the path, fruition, and nibbana may be clearly revealed, nothing in the three worlds is able to accomplish this better than nirodha and magga, which also exist within the same heart. Just these four noble truths tell the whole story. You must not long for other times, places, or people, for this is a danger that wastes a lot of time and slows your development without being of any value at all. Thinking like this, rather than thinking about the kilesas and Dhamma within your heart, contradicts the purpose and aim of the great teacher, the Lord Buddha, who bestowed his Dhamma teaching on the world, a teaching which is correct and suitable in all respects at all times. That, in essence, was the teaching which Venerable Ajaan Mun taught Ajaan Khao in a fully reasoned way while Ajaan Khao was living with him in Chiang Mai province. Ajaan Khao always remembered it quite clearly, for it was buried in his heart with no room for doubt. Sometimes Ajaan Khao had questions which, when he asked them, Ajaan Mun would admonish him for casually asking questions without having first considered the principles of Dhamma to see in which direction the truth lies. One such question he asked was, "At the time of the Lord Buddha, according to his biography and other writings, large numbers of people attained the path, fruition, and nibbana, and quickly as well. Far more people attained then than nowadays, for few people manage to get there now. Also, those who do attain seem to do so much slower." Venerable Ajaan Mun immediately asked him, "How do you know that there are hardly any who attain the path, fruition, and nibbana nowadays, and that those who do so much more slowly?" Ajaan Khao replied, "Well, I have never heard of people attaining nibbana like they used to in those days. According to what is written in the old books, many attain nibbana simultaneously each time the Lord Buddha gave them a talk on Dhamma, and many others did so soon afterward when they went out to practice the way on their own. It seems that they attained very quickly and easily, making it a joy to read about their attainments. But nowadays people strive until they almost die without seeing the type of results which one feels should come from such effort, which causes those who practice to become discouraged and undermines their efforts." Venerable Ajaan Mun then asked him, "In the old books, does it say that all those who practiced the way in those days attained quickly and easily? Or were there also those who practiced the way with difficulty, some of them gaining understanding slowly and some quickly, as well as those who practiced the way easily, some gaining understanding slowly and some quickly? Such things depend on people's inherent levels of understanding and their basic temperaments, which vary greatly with different types of people." Ajaan Khao answered, saying, "Yes, they did vary quite considerably, and they certainly did not all attain quickly and easily, some of whom attained slowly and some quickly, but I still feel that it was very different from the situation nowadays, even though people differed in the same way as they do now." Venerable Ajaan Mun then explained, "This difference comes from the teachers and how correctly and precisely they can lead the way. There is also a great discrepancy between the power of the virtuous characteristics, Vasana, of the Lord Buddha and the Savakas who followed the Buddha, and that of people today. The difference is almost beyond comparison. In addition, the interest that people have in Dhamma nowadays is so different from the time of the Lord Buddha. Even the characteristics of people that are derived from their background in this life are very different today from what they were back then. So when there are all these differences, it's hardly possible that the results will be the same. But there is no need for us to talk about other people of other ages, which would take a very long time and be tiresome. In ourselves, we display a coarseness that disturbs us all the time, even though we are ordained monks who believe that we strive diligently when we walk Jangama and sit in Samadhi Bhavana. These, though, are just bodily activities. The heart, on the other hand, is not striving in any way that corresponds to these activities at all. All it does is think in ways that accumulate the kilesas and cause disturbance, while all along we believe that we are striving by means of these activities. When this is the case, the result is bound to disturb and trouble the heart regardless of when or where we are. Thus we conclude that although striving to our utmost, we have not gained the results we should. But in fact, while walking Jangama and sitting in Samadhi, we have been accumulating harmful poisons without our being in the least aware of it. This is how we fail to strive truly and properly as it should be done. So there is really no comparison between the time of the Lord Buddha, when their striving was genuine and truly concerned with gaining freedom from dukkha, and this present age when we merely play like children with their toys. In fact, the more we try to make comparisons, the more we show off our kilesas and our incompetence. For myself, even though I live in this age of insincerity and deceit, I do not agree with you criticizing the Buddhist religion and yourself as you did just now. If you still see that you have some virtue and truth left within you, you should try to act in accordance with the plan of action that the Lord Buddha taught so rightly. Avoid the plan of action of the kilesas that leads you along their way in everything you do all the time and every day, even while you believe that you are actually striving in the way of Dhamma. The path, fruition, and nibbana are universal treasures that the Lord Buddha said may be acquired by anybody. They are treasures that you will realize to your complete satisfaction one day for sure, so long as you do not keep thinking how difficult it is and how slow your attainment comes, which are nothing but obstacles in your way. When we practice by striving like someone who feels, due to a weak, half-hearted resolve, that his body will break apart if he continues, we are like lazy, inconsequential fools who think they can bore a hole through a mountain using a small auger, and they are very anxious to do this within the time of a single day. It is so ludicrous that those who really do strive with sharp wisdom just laugh at it. We should consider the manner of striving of those who were sons of the Sakya, the Savaka disciples of the Buddha himself, to see how they acted. Then compare that with our own striving, which is like someone going to the shore just to smack the sea with his hand. It's enough to make one disheartened, seeing that his desire for nibbana extends only to getting his hands wet. Think about how the kilesas are like an ocean, and the efforts we make are like the water on our hands. How far apart are they? People in this age of just wetting their hands in the ocean make little in the way of effort, yet their intention is to get free from the realm of samsara. When this does not happen as they expect it to, they find some excuse to blame the religion or the time or the place and the people of this or that age. They are not in the least ashamed of the way they display their own incompetence and stupidity, which causes those Ajaans who are truly wise and skilled to feel disheartened and to laugh wryly, saying that there is no way in which they can do anything about such people. to invest only a small amount of capital in a useless manner, and then to expect the most enormous returns on one's investment is the way of an incompetent fool who builds his own charnel ground for cremating himself and remains engulfed in the flaming mass of his own dukkha. The round of samsara never weakens its hold on him, so he never has a chance to get free from it. The question that you asked me, which was in effect praising the teaching of Buddhism and praising the age, the place, and the people at the time of the Lord Buddha, while at the same time criticizing the teaching, the age, the place, and people nowadays, were the words of praise and blame of an incompetent fool who puts obstructions in his own path until he cannot find a way to crawl out to safety. It was the question of someone who is incompetent, the question of someone who puts thorns in his own path to obstruct himself. It was not a question designed to clear the way of obstacles so that you can move forward confidently with an interest in freeing yourself from the kilesas by means of the svakata Dhamma, the well-taught Dhamma, which is the middle way that was given impartially to all those beings in the world who have enough interest to practice the way rightly. If you only had the mindfulness and wisdom to shed all these things from yourself, you would be worthy of some admiration. It's like various kinds of diseases which people get. If people take the right remedy to make them feel better, then the cure is likely to be effective. But if they are not interested in looking after themselves and treating the disease, it will probably get worse and could even become dangerous. Except for minor complaints, such as the common cold or minor skin troubles, that cure themselves without special attention. The kilesa diseases, which are not in the class of self-healing minor ailments, must be treated with the right medicine. That medicine is the Dhamma way of striving, following the pattern which the sons of the Sakya practiced. You can be fully confident that this remedy will quell and get rid of all the kilesas, however strong they may be. If you were to think in this way, I could feel more at ease about you. I could admire you as someone who shows cleverness in his thinking, as someone who has confidence in his own ability to pass beyond the realm of samsara, as someone who has faith in the ability of the Lord Buddha and his religious teaching, faith that he penetrated Dhamma with his intuitive ability and then spread it abroad as the sasana Dhamma in a proper manner, for his teaching was a Dhamma of salvation, Niyanika Dhamma, truly able to lead beings to freedom. So don't blame and criticize yourself, saying that your kilesas are so thick that you can only learn Dhamma slowly, while at the same time having no interest in curing them. Don't blame the Lord Buddha, saying that he did not formulate and teach Dhamma in a way that was equally suitable for his own time and for all other ages. Don't blame the Dhamma, saying that it is incapable or not penetrating enough to cure the kilesas of beings in this modern age in the way it did at the time of the Lord Buddha. I am not denying the fact that the strength of people's kilesas is different from what it used to be, and I agree that people at the time of the Lord Buddha had far less of them than people do nowadays. The mode of teaching was also very different from what it is today, as were the teachers, who were mostly seers with great understanding and true seeing. The great teacher was the leader of the Savakas in formulating and teaching Dhamma to his followers and others. Therefore the teaching was never wrong and never deviated from the truth, for it came straight from the heart of the Lord and from the hearts of his followers, which were completely purified. From this purity of heart they proclaimed the Dhamma, teaching others in language that was fresh and direct, without anything hidden or anything mixed in that was wrong or distorted. Those who listened to this Dhamma were intent on the truth. They fully committed themselves to it. So the situation was entirely suitable for both teacher and pupil, and so the results came stage by stage. Being self-evident, they fulfilled the expectations of those people who were looking for truth. Because of that, they encountered no problems which could interfere with their development. It was for this reason that in those days many people attained Magga and Phala each time the great teacher or his Savaka disciples gave Dhamma teachings, whereas nowadays hardly anybody can attain. It's as though somehow people are no longer people, and Dhamma is no longer Dhamma, so no results come from the practice. But in fact, people are people, and Dhamma is Dhamma as they always were. But people are not interested in Dhamma nowadays, so the Dhamma that enters them does not reach the heart. As a result, people remain just people, and Dhamma remains just Dhamma, which is not likely to be of much use in bringing about the final attainment. Even if a large number of people listened to an exposition of the whole Tipitaka, it would be merely like pouring water on a dog's back. The dog immediately shakes it all off until there is none left. In a similar way, the Dhamma has no meaning in the hearts of people, much as water is of no consequence on the back of a dog. Venerable Ajaan Mun then asked Ajaan Khao, "When you asked that question just now, was your heart like a dog's back? Or what was it like that you blindly placed blame only on the Dhamma, saying that it had not brought you the results of the path, fruition, and nibbana the same easy way it did in the time of the Lord Buddha? Why don't you think about your own heart, which is shaking off the Dhamma from itself faster than a dog can shake water off its back? If you'll only reflect back and consider your own faults and failings, some Dhamma may find a place to seep into your heart and remain there. Then it won't simply flow through it like water flowing down a channel without any reservoir to store it, which is how you are at present. The nature of people's kilesas at the time of the Lord Buddha was a matter of their own virtue and merit, a fact which should not affect us or make difficulties for us nowadays. People today have their own kilesas of various kinds, which create trouble for them until there is hardly anywhere in the world where they can live normally. If people don't have enough interest in curing their kilesas so that they gain some freedom from the fire with which they burn each other by always criticizing one another, then it won't matter at all what age they live in. The same holds true for those who have no interest in directing their criticisms towards themselves, towards the one who is creating the fire to burn himself and cause all sorts of troubles to others now, in the present. Turning criticism towards yourself is a way of exorcising the fires of lust, hate, and delusion, at least to the extent of finding a way to gain some degree of calm and happiness, so that you are not roasted by these fires beyond your endurance. This is the way it should be with human beings, who are far more clever than any other species in the world." Ajaan Khao later explained the effect that Venerable Ajaan Mun's forceful admonitions had on him. "Venerable Ajaan Mun used to scold me quite fiercely for asking questions which had no practical solution, although I didn't ask such questions very often. But when Venerable Ajaan Mun responded to these questions by treating them as if they were thorns and splinters obstructing the sasana, I felt that it forced me to see my own faults. I would feel uneasy about it for many days, even though I actually had no doubt that people nowadays could practice Dhamma. But Ajaan Mun would still scold me, shredding me with his fierce language, which I reckon was right and suitable for someone like me, who was always talking and so couldn't be quiet and contented. On the other hand, it was also quite beneficial, because I was able to hear a Dhamma teaching that went straight to my heart. Actually, what I have just told you is no more than a fraction of the deep, spirited, and fiery Dhamma which he delivered. For his Dhamma was deeper than the ocean and more fiery than the fires of hell. He also brought up the questions I had asked him in the past to stir me up time after time. Sometimes he did this right in the middle of a meeting when all the other bhikkhus were gathered there to hear him speak. He would reveal my evil ways, talking about my wrong views, miccadirti, and likening me to a devadatta destroying the sasana. He would tear me into pieces until there was nothing good left, going on like that for a long time without letting up, until some of the other bhikkhus began to wonder about it. Afterwards, they would come to ask me whether what Ajaan Mun said was true. I had to explain how the questions I asked were not a true indication of my attitude, but that it was just a method of getting him to speak about Dhamma. Normally, if nobody asked him strange and unusual questions, he did not speak Dhamma like that. But I suppose I was rather stupid in my choice of questions, for I jumped in with both feet and gave him the hammer to hit me. Maybe I should have asked more normal and less inflammatory questions, so that I could listen to Dhamma that was more sweet and soothing. Generally speaking, it was as Ajaan Khao said. When Venerable Ajaan Mun was asked questions that were not in any way strange or unusual, he simply answered in a normal way. Even though it was still Dhamma, his way of speaking was smooth and normal, so it made no lasting impression on one's heart. But when asked a strange, unusual question, he became quite animated, and the import of the Dhamma which he brought forth was truly satisfying, as was already described in the biography of Venerable Ajaan Mun. In truth, Ajaan Mun had no doubts about Ajaan Khao's views, although the way he scolded him made it appear as though he was doubtful. It was merely the way of a skilled Ajaan teaching Dhamma. He often changed his attitude and his style of teaching in order to arouse those who were listening, making them ponder his teachings in a way that they would remember for a long time. Otherwise, they might remain complacent, clinging to their own stupidity with no interest in thinking about anything, like a frog sitting and looking at a lotus flower without any purpose. But as soon as Ajaan Mun rapped them on the head with his knuckles, it was as though their ears and eyes became brighter. Those Thutanga Kammatthana bhikkhus who followed Venerable Ajaan Mun liked being stirred up and rapped on the head frequently to hold their attention and make them think. When he simply talked in a smooth and even manner, they would listen quiescently, there being nothing to arouse and catch the heart to make it excited, concerned, and a bit frightened. Their hearts then tended to go to sleep internally when there was no method capable of making their minds active and thoughtful. Then those kilesas that were waiting to take over were likely to find an opportunity to escape and go about distracting their attention and causing trouble, because the method of teaching was not equal to the ability of the kilesas. But when they received an unusual form of teaching from Venerable Ajaan Mun, as when he was asked a question that warranted such a way of teaching, their mindfulness and wisdom were stirred up and became brighter and sharper. So, although Ajahn Khao was partly right and partly wrong in asking Venerable Ajaan Mun questions, they were Dhamma questions from which he could expect to gain a lot of value in the same way he had often done in the past.